I want to go one other really advanced feature, which we would never talk about. If say you're a data scientist, you're a data analyst, right? It's obvious that what Flow is trying to do is turn everyone into citizen data analysts. Obviously, that's the idea, right? One of the things that stands out to me is like if you're not a data scientist and you have never tried to do data analysis on data points from multiple data sources. So let's say what I wanted to do. If you've never done that before, you have no idea what the challenges are in doing that. But let's say I wanted to do something as simple as putting together the data point from a sensor coming out of a PLC that is updating once every 25 milliseconds. Okay. I have set up my polling where I'm going to store that data point in the historian every 50 milliseconds. So I'm going to have one measurement for every 50 milliseconds on that sensor. And we'll say this is a sensor with a floating point value. Okay. Then what I want to do is I want to compare that with another sensor that is being stored every 1 second. Okay. And that comes from a different data source. And then what I want to do is I want to also compare that with, say, an availability calculation on that. So downtime and availability on the asset that's coming from a third data source, and that's being calculated every 1 minute. All right. One of the challenges you would run into two of those. How do you context is just putting the three together. Normalization is having one value. You go to the highest resolution data point and you create a value at that resolution for everything. Okay. So if it's 50 milliseconds, let's say that my availability calculation was 0.9 for the next 60 seconds. At 50 milliseconds, I've got 200 data points in every second. So I need to have 200 of 0.9 for every 1 second so that it's lined up with the 50 milliseconds. Okay. That's what I would need to do. All right. That's just one problem. The next problem is,
well, can I just start by saying you haven't even yet created a database to ingest this data in and start to work with it. So there's the first problem. Where am I going to do this?
And moreover, the other bigger one is they're not using the same clocks. So you have
they're not using the same
they have
clocks.
3 data sources, all with different clocks. So one of the things that blows my mind about Flow, and this is like some of the unappreciated technology. And we never even really talked about it when you guys did the demo. The algorithms that you guys have, that Lenny and whoever the team, I'm assuming Lenny is one of the developers of the platform, right? He knows under the hood.
No. Lenny's really more on the implementation side. Lenny's just
wrote the algorithms. Who's the guy who writes the?
So you're looking at, I would say, a 4-man team. The key developers are going to be Graham, Leon, Rickus, and Vaughn.
All right. The algorithms that they obviously had to write their own algorithms to be able to determine which clock to use and how to line that data up. So when you do your backfill of your data source, you're basically taking these data points, you've got your data sources, you're going to do the data operation, then you're going to backfill it. So I'm going to backfill it 30 days. So I can look at a chart over the last 30 days. You have to run that through an algorithm to get all the data points lined up so your calculations are correct. One of Flow's greatest abilities is the algorithms that they've written to get that right. And only a data scientist is going to appreciate that. Like only someone who's doing data analysis. And like when you talk about checking off the boxes, that's an advanced thing. We normally wouldn't even talk about that in a podcast. But Flow does that better than any other platform I have ever come in contact with. Like if Flow is good at anything, it is the process of developing the process for accurate and effective data analytics. That developing the process. But let me ask you this, Jeff. Yeah. What is let's say someone gets started with Flow. Let's talk about the digital maturity, right? Their fluency increases over time. what does a typical engagement look like in the beginning? I install Flow for the first time. What is a typical use case in my proof of concept? And then how am I using it a year later or 2 years later? Because obviously that looks totally different, right? They're only scratching the surface in a POC, and then they've got what can you kind of walk through what a genealogy is, and maybe that will help illustrate to people.
Absolutely. First engagements usually not just for technology's sake, right? Like this is all really cool. Like we're right now, we are just triggering every enterprise architect's dream come true right now, right? But at the end of the day, that's not who I'm talking to each day. I wish it was, but that's not who I'm talking to each day. I'm talking to men and women on the front line that have a problem to solve, and that problem is around, I've been told I need to do this, or I want to do this. I need this piece of data readily available for me to be able to make a decision off of. So what does that look like? I'll give you an example I heard yesterday. I want to know true cost per unit for the last 1,000 units produced.
Okay.
That's what I need. Okay.
So you end up with with a dashboard that's displaying a value in a tag tree where you have already gone through the workflow to create to consume the data points you need to calculate it, to backfill the data, and then do the calculation and put it in a place where it can be visualized, and then you've got a visual on a screen. That's an example of a proof of concept.
Yep.
Okay.
That's 3 databases I'm going to have to probably hit. I need a personnel database, I need a time series database, and I need to understand something that tells me what my raw goods are costing me, right? Okay, easy enough. Like that's such an easy problem to actually solve.
That's something you could do in a business development call if you have access to the databases.
If you had the databases set up, I could do it for you in 20 minutes. It's actually, no, for me, I might struggle to figure out how to write the script to keep look only at the last 1,000 units, but plenty Graham, you would knock that out of the park. So that actually, because of the business model that we've adopted, that single little use case will show an ROI on Flow.
Right, because you're basically landing, you're getting Flow installed at an annual subscription cost.
Annual subscription,
unlimited. Right? You're getting it in the environment. You're solving the first problem of many problems you're going to solve with Flow, but that first problem is getting you the ROI.